It all started with a golf ball crashing through my kitchen window. I'd heard people say that the first time someone yells for on your own property, it's a warning sign. For me, it was more than that. It was a swarm of retirees in polo shirts cheering on what they called the ninth hole, followed by a stranger asking if he could use my backyard hose to fill his cooler. That's when it hit me. Something was seriously wrong. This wasn't a dream. My peaceful 5-acre property, the sanctuary I'd bought to escape the noise of the world, had somehow become a fully functional golf course without my permission. And the kicker? The HOA president, a woman named Linda with oversized sunglasses that could have had their own area code, rolled up in a golf cart, grinned at me, and said, "You're welcome." It had begun like any other Tuesday. I was inside, tinkering with a loose hinge on my pantry door, when I heard faint popping noises, then a strange whack thud, and what sounded suspiciously like clapping. Stepping outside, I was blinded by sunlight bouncing off freshly planted flags, pristine turf, and a little fountain bubbling next to a putting green. A crowd of HOA members had taken over my field. What used to be my field decked out in matching polos, swinging clubs like they were prepping for a senior tour. My land, my solitude, had been carved into holes 1, 4, and 9 of a golf course they'd proudly named Emerald Hills Links. I stood there, dumbfounded, coffee still in hand, as a golf cart zipped by with some guy yelling, "Nice slice, Tom," nearly taking out my mailbox in the process. The grass I'd planted myself was now a fairway. My old shed? A snack shack called the Putter Pantry. A teenager waved at me from my own porch, sipping a sports drink like he owned the place. I marched up to Linda, who stood on a putting green like she was queen of the world, and demanded to know what was happening. "Oh, we've been planning this for months," she chirped, as if that made it okay. "Don't worry, it's just the lower half of your land it wasn't being used. You'll love the property value boost." I blinked at her. "You built a golf course on my land without telling me?" She laughed like I was the odd one out. "Technically, it's a community easement. We had our lawyer check an old mass shared usage, untapped potential, legal stuff, you know." Let me stop right there. I'm not a lawyer. I am a software engineer who works from home, cherishes quiet, and knows exactly where my property lines lie. When I bought this place 3 years ago, I had every inch surveyed and documented. No easement, no shared agreement, just 5 acres of solitude I'd paid for in cash after grinding away in tech for 10 years. And now Linda had claimed it with nothing but a smirk and some fake grass. The next few days were insanity. Golfers arrived in droves, parking cars and carts along my driveway. My garden was stomped flat, my dog too terrified to step outside thanks to the constant barrage of golf balls. One guy hit a shot so wild it ricocheted off my grill and plopped into the birdbath. When I told the HOA this was trespassing, Linda just grinned and said, "You don't want to be the neighbor who ruins community fun, do you?" That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk, digging through land records, deeds, surveys, tax history. I even called my original surveyor at midnight. It was all their rock-solid proof that this was my land, no exceptions. That's when it clicked. They hadn't just taken my property. They'd invested in it, seeded it, watered it, built on it because they thought they could intimidate me into shutting up. So I smiled. If they wanted to turn my land into their golf empire, I'd let them. Let them spend. Let them dig their own grave with a putter and a wink. When the time was right, I'd hit back not just with paperwork, but with a plan that'd sting worse than a shank to the shin. The next day, I showed up at their grand opening for Emerald Hills Links, clapping like a supportive neighbor. Linda spotted me, looking puzzled but smug. "See? I knew you'd come around," she said. "You'll love being part of this." "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, because she had no clue I'd just kicked off phase 1 of a scheme that'd make every swing on my land a step toward their collapse. They thought they were teeing up a win. They didn't know they were building their own EVY tie-in notice. Winning a long game takes patience, quiet, maddening patience that lets people think they're ahead while they bury themselves. After the ribbon cutting, I played along, handed out lemonade, complimented Linda's matching gloves and visor. She glowed like she'd just won a war. I wanted her cocky, comfortable, because only when someone feels untouchable do they screw up big. Phase 1 was infiltration. I needed intel on this HOA golf fantasy funding, supporters, weak spots. So I became Ron, a lonely retiree new to town, eager to join the community. With a fake Facebook profile, a burner email, and an old man voice my granddad would have applauded, Ron joined the HOA's golf expansion committee. They met Thursdays in Linda's garage, decked out with golf junk and a whiteboard labeled Future Phases. It was a mess, underfunded, chaotic, delusional. No legal counsel, no financial oversight, no permits. They were blowing through HOA reserve funds money for street repairs, emergencies, because Linda swore it was a long-term investment for property values. Everyone nodded, too scared to look like buzzkills. But their budget was a train wreck. Linda was already pushing for a luxury clubhouse on my land. That was my opening. At the next meeting, I raised my hand as sweet old Ron and said, "How about a fountain out front? Maybe some solar lights for night play?" People love ambience. Linda's eyes sparkled like I'd handed her a golden club. She clapped and yelled, "That's the energy we need." Soon, they were chasing turf upgrades, drink machines, branded scorecards, never asking how they'd pay for it. They were too high on their own hype to see the cliff I was nudging them toward. Weeks later, I was their golden boy. I pitched themed tournaments, an Emerald Hills Invitational, a live scoreboard app. Every idea got cheers and more spending. Linda started hitting homeowners with special assessments, mandatory fees dressed up as optional donations. People grumbled, but she guilted them. "Do you want to be why we don't get new greens?" She even floated a payment plan with penalties. It was glorious, shady, but glorious. They were now planning that clubhouse, kitchen, bathrooms, patio, all on what they still thought was community land. My land. I'd let them believe it so completely that Linda handed me the blueprints and said, "Ron, could you check the soil out there?" I nodded like a helpful old coot and said I'd talk to a friend at zoning about permits. No friend existed. Instead, I gave her a slick fake documenta, land use agreement, with a forged clause about temporary community enhancements, stamped with a notary seal I snagged at a garage sale. Linda, bless her clueless soul, filed it as their green light. Construction started. From my porch, I watched lemonade in hand as they poured concrete, framed walls, painted a mural of a golf ball smashing through a wall with Emerald Hills Clubhouse, swing to greatness. The arrogance was hypnotic. I documented everything: photos, videos, drone shots, receipts they bragged about online. They were so proud, so loud, so dumb. At the clubhouse soft opening, they had balloons, music, BBUA local news crew even showed up. Linda gave a speech about visionary leadership and grassroots spirit. I clapped from the back, nearly choking on a hot dog from laughing. She thanked residents like Ron as the camera panned to me. I waved. They had no idea I'd already lawyered up, armed with the deed, their financial screw-ups, zoning violations, everything. But I waited. I needed them all in. When you kill a dream, timing is key. I wanted it to hit like a sledgehammer swung by justice itself. The hammer dropped at their next Tuesday meeting. My cease and desist letter thudded onto their table. Linda grabbed it, smirking until she read it. It laid out everything. All work on parcel 223B golf course, clubhouse, signs must stop due to trespassing, illegal building, and zoning breaches. I attached the deed, highlighted boundaries, and a photo of Linda at the ribbon cutting by my mailbox. It warned of fines, lawsuits, and a state complaint for misusing funds. Her smirk vanished. The room erupted. Muffins hit the floor. A guy in khaki screamed about his due law $1,200 donation. A woman demanded why her house had a lien. Linda sat frozen, rereading the letter like it had changed. I stood up, smiled, and said, "Oh, that's just the nice version. Court summons next week." I walked out, letting the chaos simmer. 2 days later, fine notices hit. Due law 1,500 daily for land use. Due law 800 for structural violations. Due law 300 for unauthorized events. Every HOA member got a letter about personal liability since Linda misused funds. Their lawyer, some half-retired guy named Ed, quit when he saw the fake agreement she'd filed, calling it fraud in a community play. Linda flailed emergency meetings, pleas for a legal subcommittee. No one bit. They were too busy panicking. Then the media pounced. I tipped off a rival station with proof of the HOA's land grab and fraud. HOA's green dream turns legal nightmare, aired, with drone shots, maps, and McElmley saying, "I just want peace and accountability." Cut to Linda pacing while someone yanked a "Welcome to Emerald Hills" sign. That weekend, it crumbled. Golfers vanished, events died, HOA meetings became yellfests. Some leaked online. A clip of Linda claiming shared potential space was legal, interrupted by, "You said this double my value." Went viral on Reddit's r/HOA fails. Court was a breeze. My lawyer brought photos, videos, fake docs, expenditure breakdowns. Linda showed up solo, her board had bailed. The judge ruled fast. Damages, cease use, dismantle everything. Better yet, the clubhouse built on my land with community cash had to be liquidated. Through an LLC I'd set up, I bid on it. $1. When I handed over the check, Linda stood there, silent, fuming. I smiled, unlocked my building, and walked in. She'd been ousted as president, banned from meetings. Last I heard, leaving with her brother in an HOA-free zone. The clubhouse smelled of paint and defeat. I left their plaques UPA reminder of hubris. They built their dream on my land. I let them. Then I took it back.